Bruno Mars, a singer, songwriter, performer, and Grammy winner. You already know him. The voice, the moves, the songs instantly recognizable. For more than a decade, he has remained one of the most consistent hitmakers in modern music, moving between pop, R&B, funk, and soul, while somehow making each era feel entirely his own.
No, it's pretty incredible. It's so weird for us to get this kind of news and then come up here and try to talk.
Loved by many for his charm and stage presence. A rare artist whose songs have soundtracked celebrations, heartbreaks, and unforgettable moments for millions around the world. A reminder that great music doesn't just define moments, it becomes part of who we are.
I mean, I knew my music is just pretty, incredible, so this is not really
Y'all getting this?
In 2010, Bruno Mars broke into the mainstream with Just the Way You Are, a massive hit. The song quickly climbed music charts around the world because of its heartfelt lyrics, catchy melody, and Bruno's smooth vocal style. Just the Way You Are introduced audiences to his talent as both a singer and songwriter, helping establish him as one of pop music's rising stars. Shortly after Just the Way You Are, Grenade gained national praise. These two songs, Grenade and Just the Way You Are, played everywhere. They filled shopping malls, played endlessly on car radios, and poured through speakers in restaurants, clothing stores, and city streets. This was before the rise of short-form social media, when hit songs spread through radio, television, YouTube, Vivo, and the early days of smartphones like the iPhone, which had only then begun to reshape how people listened to music. His music connected with listeners because it felt honest, emotional, and it was easy to sing along to. For many fans, his songs became part of everyday life, playing during road trips, at parties, and even during quiet moments alone. Streaming hadn't yet become the dominant way people listened to music. Portable devices like iPods and MP3 players were something people carried everywhere. They also bought CDs. In bedrooms and on commutes, listeners would plug in their wired earphones, scroll through song lists, and replay the same tracks on repeat. Today, many people view Grenade as a staple karaoke song. Almost overnight, Bruno Mars became a voice millions of people would sing along to. Since the songs dropped a few months prior to the album's release, they had already become massive hits and chart-topping singles by the time the full album, Doo-Wops and Hooligans, hit the shelves. Blending pop, R&B, reggae, soul, and acoustic influences, the album introduced listeners to a sound that felt both nostalgic and modern for the early 2000s. Its emotional songwriting, catchy hooks, and relatable themes shared cultural experiences across radio stations, YouTube, and personal music devices in the early 2010s. After introducing several major hits in 2010, Bruno Mars continued the momentum into 2011 with additional songs from Doo-Wops and Hooligans, including Marry You, a track that listeners could initially only access by purchasing the full album. Although it was not originally intended to be a major standalone single, the song became an organic runaway success, fueled by viral wedding proposal videos, celebration montages, and a widely viewed cover performance on the TV show Glee in late 2010. As its popularity continued to grow, Bruno Mars's record label moved to capitalize on the unexpected momentum. On August 22, 2011, Marry You was officially released as a commercial single in international markets, including the UK, Europe, and Australia. At this stage, Bruno Mars had just broken through with Just the Way You Are, and Marry You helped keep that momentum going. Even on his first album, his songs were already finding their way into people's lives in a way that felt personal. And that said a lot about his impact from the very beginning. Bruno Mars has spoken about his goal of creating music that feels timeless, songs that connect with people beyond the moment they're released. And that's exactly what he went on to do. Mars also continued into 2011 with additional singles such as The Lazy Song. This is normal for that era. Albums dropped first, then singles were released over months, sometimes years, to keep the album alive in charts and radio rotation. Before his solo breakthrough, the Smeezingtons played a major role in shaping Bruno Mars's early career. Formed by Bruno Mars, Philip Lawrence, and Ari Levine, the production trio worked behind the scenes writing and producing songs for other artists. Their polished songwriting style, catchy melodies, and strong understanding of pop music quickly gained attention across the industry. He also collaborated with artists like B.O.B. on Nothing on You and Travie McCoy on Billionaire, two early hits that introduced his voice to a global audience. Nothing on You was a soft melodic rap ballad. Built around themes of love and admiration, the song paired B.O.B.'s verses with Bruno's smooth, memorable chorus. It was simple, sincere, and instantly accessible. For many listeners, it was their first introduction to Bruno's voice, even if they didn't yet know his name.
Beautiful girls all over the world. I could be chasing, but my time would be wasted. They got nothing on you, baby. Nothing on you, baby.
Well, I know you feel where I'm coming from. Regardless of the things in my past that I've done. Most of it really was for the hell of the fun. On the carousel, so around.
The song became a global success, reaching #1 in multiple countries and earning Grammy nominations, helping establish Bruno as one of the industry's most promising new songwriters and vocalists. Where Nothing on You was romantic and understated, Billionaire was playful, ambitious, and impossible to ignore. The song imagined a life of wealth, fame, and luxury, but delivered those ideas with a sense of humor rather than seriousness. Bruno's chorus was catchy, optimistic, and perfectly suited to the song's lighthearted tone. Together, these records revealed something important about Bruno Mars early on. He wasn't confined to one style. He could deliver a heartfelt love song just as naturally as he could elevate a radio-friendly pop anthem. His voice felt equally comfortable in pop, R&B, hip-hop, and singer-songwriter spaces. At a time when many new artists were still searching for a clear identity, Bruno Mars was already demonstrating remarkable versatility. And perhaps most importantly, both songs highlighted the skill that would define much of his career moving forward. The ability to write and perform hooks that people remembered after a single listen. By the time Bruno Mars released his own debut single, he was no longer an unknown songwriter behind the scenes. The groundwork had already been laid. The only thing missing was a hit with his own name on it. What followed would transform Bruno Mars from a promising songwriter into one of the biggest stars in music. His breakthrough moment came at the Grammy Awards, where he received major recognition and multiple nominations across some of the night's biggest categories. For many people in the music industry, this was the moment Bruno Mars stopped being viewed as simply a rising artist and started being seen as a serious force in pop music. He received nominations for Record of the Year for Nothing on You, Song of the Year for Fuck You, and Best Male Pop Vocal Performance for Just the Way You Are.
We're here!
What it means to me to get these 3 big nominations? Well, it proves that I'm the greatest, right? He knows what I'm talking about. It means, I'm about to get real cheesy, get ready.
Get it in.
It means that hard work pays off.
He appeared comfortable in front of cameras, often using humor and charm during interviews while still speaking seriously about music and performance.
No, it's pretty incredible. It's so weird for us to get this kind of news and then come up here and try to talk. So, as far as the nominations are concerned, we couldn't be happier. And for us, I think Grenade that's our trophy song. We've been fortunate enough to work with a lot of artists, but I think I can speak for all of us and say that song, I feel like we did something with that one. Yeah, well, it took us a while to write that record. So we were just slaving away at the studio. It took us 3 months to finish Grenade. And it was after Just the Way You Are, and I felt like, man, I really want people to hear this side. And I hope they did.
Audiences were drawn not only to his voice and songwriting, but also to his charisma and natural stage presence. The industry no longer viewed Bruno Mars as simply a newcomer with a few hit singles. He was quickly becoming one of pop music's most recognizable and complete entertainers.
Who do you want to work with next? I think what we want to do is find some new talent and, produce a whole album. Find a band, find a solo artist, a rapper. It doesn't matter, something that we think that we can contribute to and make it special.
At the American Music Awards that year, he won Favorite Pop/Rock Male Artist. Unlike the Grammys, which are voted on by industry professionals and focus more on artistic and technical achievement, the AMAs are driven largely by public popularity, radio performance, and fan engagement. In many ways, the award reflected how widely his music had connected with mainstream audiences in a short amount of time. It was a clear sign that his rise was no longer limited to critics' attention or industry recognition. It had reached the general public at scale. But even as recognition built across award shows and charts, Bruno Mars did not immediately rush into the next album cycle. Instead, much of this period was defined by touring. The Doo-Wops and Hooligans tour became a major turning point in shaping him as a live performer. It took the music out of studios and radio playlists and placed it into real spaces where every song had to stand on performance alone. On stage, the songs became more physical, shaped by energy, crowd reaction, and repetition night after night. This was where his identity as a performer fully began to solidify. Not just someone behind hit records, but someone able to carry entire arenas with voice, band, and presence. Across international venues, the tour expanded his reach further, turning early hits into shared global experiences. At the same time, the debut album continued to live on through radio rotation, television performances, and early online platforms like YouTube and Vevo, extending its relevance far beyond its initial release cycle. Unlike today's streaming-driven environment, albums at the time could remain active for years through sustained single releases and constant media exposure. That meant Bruno Mars was still deeply connected to his debut era, even as he began thinking ahead. But behind the scenes, change was already underway. The question was what came next. Many artists in his position might have repeated the formula that worked, but instead, Bruno Mars began working toward a second album that would stretch beyond the clean pop structure of his debut. The aim was not to replace what he had built, but to expand it, to explore different sounds, genres, and emotional tones without losing the identity that had made him recognizable in the first place. In 2012, Bruno Mars released his second studio album, Unorthodox Jukebox, showing a more confident and adventurous direction in his music. The lead single, Locked Out of Heaven, stood out for its fast-paced, funk-driven sound and clear retro influence. The song takes strong inspiration from the late 1970s and 1980s pop and funk style often associated with Michael Jackson's peak years. The track reflected Mars's growing ability to blend nostalgia with a modern edge. It also has that raw live band feel in the chorus and rhythm section, which gives it a sense of urgency and movement. At the same time, it mixes in modern production, so it feels polished and contemporary rather than purely retro. When Bruno Mars was younger, he was inspired by a whole mix of classic artists and sounds. People like Michael Jackson and Elvis Presley definitely played a big role, especially when it comes to stage presence, charisma, and the idea of being a full entertainer. He even performed as a child Elvis impersonator when he was very young, appearing as Little Elvis in the 1992 film Honeymoon in Vegas. He also took a lot from funk, soul, and R&B legends like James Brown and Prince, plus the broader Motown and classic pop sound from the 60s through the 80s. Those influences shaped his love for tight grooves, live instrumentation, and music that feels energetic and alive. Unorthodox Jukebox was very well received both commercially and critically, and it really marked a turning point for Bruno Mars as an artist stepping into his own sound. The album debuted at #1 in several countries, including the US and UK, and went on to produce multiple global hits like When I Was Your Man and Treasure. Critics generally praised it for being more daring and stylistically varied than his debut, with a stronger sense of personality and risk-taking. That momentum carried directly into his 2013 touring era, when his world tour cemented him as a true live performer. With massive production, tight choreography, and a full live band driving the sound, the shows felt energetic and polished while still keeping a raw musical edge. It was during this era that his reputation as one of the strongest live vocal performers of his generation really began to take shape. In 2014 came one of the biggest milestones for Bruno Mars when he headlined the Super Bowl 48 halftime show, one of the most watched live performances in music. The show was built around high energy and pure showmanship. Bruno opened with a drum-driven intro, even stepping behind the kit himself, which immediately set the tone that this wasn't going to be a standard pop performance. Midway through the performance, he was joined on stage by Red Hot Chili Peppers, adding a rock edge and expanding the energy of the show even further. The collaboration helped blend funk, pop, and rock into one seamless moment. Another collaboration widely talked about after the Super Bowl was Uptown Funk, Bruno Mars's massive 2014 hit with Mark Ronson. The track quickly became a global phenomenon, standing out for its infectious groove, punchy brass, and unmistakable funk-inspired energy. It dominated radio, clubs, weddings, and sports arenas almost everywhere, becoming one of the most recognizable songs of the decade. After the explosive success of Uptown Funk with Mark Ronson, Bruno Mars spent 2015 and 2016 feeling less like a traditional pop star and more like an event whenever he appeared. Audiences weren't just responding to the music, they were reacting to the energy, precision, and charisma he brought to every performance. There was a growing sense that Bruno Mars could step onto any stage, anywhere in the world, and completely take control of the room.
So Uptown Funk, the last time I spoke to you, it was absolutely in the peak. It was crazy. Everyone was singing it to you. You said you'll never get bored of it, and you want to make another one.
Yeah,
So-
well, you know, like, it's crazy that what the song's gone on to do. I mean, and it just kind of keeps going. You would think like everybody's sick of it by now or whatnot, but I don't know. It's just like, it's one of those things I don't try and explain too much. It's just, it's cool.
It happened. Do you talk to Bruno much?
I do speak to Bruno. And he's hard working on his new record, which I'm sure is going to be amazing.
I can imagine him like sending a lot of emojis in WhatsApp.
He's not into emojis. Like from what he certainly doesn't send them to me. I'm not really much of an emoji guy either. I'm a bit more old school.
From that point onward, releases connected to his name were no longer treated as regular singles. They were treated as major global events. What stood out was the consistency. Whether it was a collaboration or a lead single, his music continued to reach audiences worldwide almost instantly. Songs didn't just perform well domestically. They spread internationally, often within days of release. Over time, this created a pattern. Bruno Mars wasn't relying on constant output, but when he did release music, it tended to break through at a global level. Around the industry, it was widely recognized as a record that blended nostalgia with modern pop production in a way that felt intentional rather than trend-driven. Many artists referenced its sound as part of a broader return to funk-influenced pop in the mid-2010s. Even outside of production circles, the reaction was consistent. Performers across different genres acknowledged how dominant the song became in live settings and popular culture. It became the kind of track that translated across audiences, from pop listeners to R&B fans to mainstream radio. That feeling peaked during the 2016 Super Bowl halftime show with Coldplay and Beyoncé. Even alongside artists of that scale, Mars never looked overshadowed. If anything, audiences and media came away reminded of how magnetic he was as a live performer. Sharp choreography, effortless crowd command, and the kind of stage presence that felt both old school and modern at the same time. By this point, many fans and critics viewed him as one of the few contemporary artists who could genuinely deliver the kind of large-scale live performances associated with previous generations of superstar entertainers. The momentum from Uptown Funk and these massive televised appearances helped cement Bruno Mars not just as a hitmaker, but as a performer people trusted to deliver unforgettable moments on the world's biggest stages. This visibility set the next phase of his career, culminating in the success of 24K Magic later in 2016. While much of the album thrived on explosive funk energy and party anthems, Versace on the Floor revealed a more restrained and mature side of Mars as a vocalist and performer. This specific song slowed everything down into a smooth, intimate R&B ballad that highlighted emotional control. For many listeners, it became one of the standout sensual ballads of his career, showing he could command attention just as easily through subtlety as through showmanship. Then another release, Finesse, which introduced an even more defined visual and sonic identity. Drawing heavily from 1990s New Jack Swing and R&B culture, the song and its later remix with Cardi B became a genuine cultural moment. The music video, heavily inspired by In Living Color, embraced bright color palettes, old-school choreography, and 90s television aesthetics in a way that felt both playful and authentic. Rather than feeling like imitation, it felt like Bruno Mars fully immersing himself in and celebrating the era that shaped him artistically. Then came the 24Karat Magic World Tour. Night after night, sold-out arenas watched a show built on precision choreography, live instrumentation, and the unmistakable influence of 1990s R&B and New Jack Swing. The performances felt larger than pop music. They felt timeless. As the tour expanded across the world, it quickly became one of the highest-grossing tours of its era, cementing Bruno's reputation as a complete entertainer. And then came the moment the industry officially recognized it. At the 60th Annual Grammy Awards, Bruno Mars swept the night's biggest categories with major wins, including Album of the Year, Record of the Year, and Song of the Year. Bruno didn't just win awards, he crossed into another category entirely, Industry Icon. The sweep validated what fans had already seen throughout the 24K Magic era. Bruno Mars had successfully brought the sound, style, and performance energy of classic R&B back to the center of mainstream pop culture. After sweeping the night at the Grammys, he didn't immediately rush into the next album or era. Instead, he stepped back from the constant release rhythm that defines most pop careers. Public appearances became more selective, interviews less frequent, and the overall pace noticeably slowed. And in that space, attention naturally shifted. Fans didn't react with confusion, but with anticipation. The question became less about whether Bruno Mars was still at the top, and more about what he would choose to do from there. Part of that anticipation came from how private he had always been. Unlike many artists of his generation, Bruno Mars rarely built his career around constant visibility. He wasn't known for sharing every aspect of his personal life, documenting his daily routine, or maintaining a permanent presence in headlines. Instead, most people understood him through the music itself. As social media became increasingly important to the music industry, many artists embraced a more direct and continuous relationship with their audience. Bruno Mars took a different approach. When there was music to release, he appeared. When there wasn't, he often stepped away from public view. The longer the gap became, the more discussion shifted toward what might come next. Every collaboration, every performance, and every public appearance generated speculation about a future project. Fans were left to piece together clues from occasional interviews, studio photos, industry rumors, and the music itself. And because his previous releases had been so successful, expectations only continued to grow. Following the success of Finesse in 2018, that pattern became even more noticeable. Years passed without a new solo album. Interviews remained relatively rare, and major public appearances were often tied directly to performances or professional projects rather than personal publicity. Yet the absence never seemed to diminish interest. If anything, it had the opposite effect. In 2021, Bruno Mars came back into focus with something completely different. He returned alongside Anderson .Paak as Silk Sonic. An Evening with Silk Sonic is the debut album by Silk Sonic, the musical duo formed by Bruno Mars and Anderson .Paak. It is a retro-inspired R&B and soul album blending classic 1970s soul, funk, slow jams, and vintage R&B influences with modern production and performance. The album was designed to feel like a full old-school listening experience built around live instrumentation, layered harmonies, smooth vocals, and cinematic storytelling. Rather than continuing the larger-than-life pop energy of 24K Magic, the album leaned into intimacy, musicianship, and nostalgia. Bruno Mars in many ways is seen as an intimate musician. He built his reputation on songs that felt close rather than distant. Love songs, heartbreak songs, late-night songs. That intimacy carried through the An Evening with Silk Sonic era with Silk Sonic. Songs like Leave the Door Open and Smokin' Out the Window combined humor, heartbreak, and showmanship in a way that felt both classic and modern at the same time.
I'ma leave the door open. I'ma leave the door open, girl.
An Evening with Silk Sonic came out at a time when music was moving faster than ever, driven by short clips, viral moments, and constant trends. But instead of leaning into that, it went the other way. It slowed everything down. Silk Sonic felt like stepping into a different world. Live instruments, warm production, vintage soul and funk influences. That whole approach really landed with songs like Leave the Door Open, where everything is patient, smooth, and intentionally old school, and it worked. At the 64th Annual Grammy Awards, Leave the Door Open won Record of the Year. It added another major Grammy moment to Bruno Mars's career. Not as something new, but as a continuation of something he'd already built back during the 24K Magic era. In the years after the Silk Sonic era, Bruno Mars would collaborate with Rosé from Blackpink on the track APT, which instantly became a massive hit. It showed, once again, how easily he could step into modern pop without needing to announce a new era. With the release of APT alongside Rosé, he stepped directly into the world of global K-pop collaboration, where language, culture, and production styles blend in a completely different way from traditional American pop. Rosé's vocal style carries a K-pop foundation, multilingual phrasing, precision, and a performance system built for global audiences. Bruno Mars, on the other hand, comes from a very different lineage: 90s R&B, funk, soul, and live band performance culture, where emotion and groove lead everything. Even the visual language around Bruno Mars shifted. The world around the record leaned into a brighter, more stylized palette: soft pinks, neon tones, glossy lighting, and highly curated digital aesthetics that felt closer to modern K-pop visual design than the warm, analog textures of his earlier eras. Where 24K Magic had lived in golds and stage lights, and An Evening with Silk Sonic had lived in smoky lounge intimacy, a PT exists in a more hyper-modern space, clean, color-coded, and built for a global scroll-driven audience. And one important thing to note, Bruno Mars remains centered in performance. The movement, the control, the vocal delivery, the sense of timing. No matter the aesthetic, the foundation doesn't shift. In many shots, he's not just standing at the front of the record, he's behind the kit, on drums, locked into the rhythm rather than floating above it. It's a small detail, but it matters. It places him inside the music rather than outside it, reinforcing something he's done throughout his career. Perform as a musician first, even in pop's most stylized environments. His outfit follows the same idea. Sharp, intentional, but not overly futuristic. It feels like a bridge between eras rather than a reinvention, consistent with someone who doesn't abandon identity depending on the setting, and that's what ties it all together. He doesn't stay in one lane of pop music. He moves through different worlds of it and makes them feel familiar when he arrives. For Rosé, APT became the biggest collaboration of her solo career. The song was a major global success and went on to earn significant international recognition, including award wins tied to the track. Beyond that, he continued to appear in high-profile, carefully chosen collaborations, including Wake Up in the Sky with Gucci Mane and Kodak Black, as well as production and performance work on Blow with Ed Sheeran and Chris Stapleton. He also did a vocal collaboration with Lady Gaga on Die With a Smile, reinforcing his ability to move between genres, cultures, and generations without ever needing to reinvent his core identity. In ways, Die With a Smile brought Bruno Mars's career full circle. From his earliest releases, he had pursued music that felt timeless, songs that could become part of people's lives rather than simply dominate a moment. More than a decade after his breakthrough, that philosophy remained unchanged. The success of Die With a Smile showed that the qualities that first connected him with audiences were still at the heart of his music. And in that sense, Die With a Smile wasn't just another release in his catalog. It was a reminder that the idea he started with had never needed to change, only evolve. In 2026, Bruno Mars returned with his first solo album in nearly a decade since 24K Magic. The project, titled The Romantic, marked a full comeback to album-era music after years of selective collaborations, global features, and the Silk Sonic chapter with Anderson .Paak. The lead single, I Just Might, reintroduced him at full scale, debuting at #1 and signaling that even after years away from a traditional solo rollout, his presence in pop music had not faded. Compared to the bright energy of 24K Magic or the smooth theatricality of Silk Sonic, The Romantic felt slower and far more reflective. Some fans viewed it as a mature continuation of his style, while others still preferred the cultural impact of 24K Magic or the chemistry of Silk Sonic. But even the criticism surrounding the album pointed to the same thing. Bruno Mars had reached a point in his career where his music was no longer being compared to current pop trends. It was being compared to eras. Many critics noted the album's strong 70s soul and Latin pop influence, especially on tracks like Risk It All and Cha Cha Cha. What makes Bruno Mars's discography unique is that each album seems to capture a different stage of his artistic development. Rather than simply releasing collections of songs, he has often treated each project as an opportunity to explore a new side of himself as a musician and performer. As a result, his albums stand apart from one another while still feeling connected. Together, they tell the story of an artist who was never interested in standing still, constantly challenging himself while remaining committed to the timeless qualities that had defined his music from the beginning.
Thank you. Oh, yeah.
At the beginning of his career, Bruno Mars didn't know he would become a defining voice across multiple eras of pop, R&B, and soul. What he couldn't have known was how many versions of himself the industry would come to hear. The songwriter behind early pop hits, the architect of 24K Magic, the performer at the center of Grammys, the revivalist in Silk Sonic, and the quiet collaborator appearing only when the moment demanded it.
Incredible.
Yeah, we just got the word like about 2 minutes ago, so
Yeah.
we're still kind of soaking it in. But other than that, it's kind of awesome.
Yeah.
Over time, his career stopped looking like a straight line. It became a collection of eras that all felt distinct. From stadium stages to vinyl-lit rooms, from global pop collaborations to stripped-back soul records, Bruno Mars never relied on constant presence to stay relevant. And that's where the title comes in.
If you guys look back at who we have collaborated with, it's been kind of all over the place. And that's why we have so much fun doing what we're doing, is because we get to jump around and do a hip-hop record, do a soul record with CeeLo, do a reggae record with Travis McCoy, do a big old pop love ballad like Just the Way You Are. So that's a hard question for us. But I guess, what do you say? Alicia Keys is always Alicia Keys.
Yeah.
Prince.
Jesus.
Yeah, Kings of Leon, I'd love to get down with. So many.
Bruno Mars, Hitmaker. And whenever he shows up again, that's still the only thing people expect. People expect hits when it comes to Bruno Mars, not just because of the charts or the awards, but because over time, he built a reputation for making records that stay around longer than the moment they were released in.
What it means to me to get these 3 big nominations, well, it proves that I'm the greatest, right? He knows what I'm talking about. It means, I'm about to get real cheesy, get ready.
Get it in.
It means that hard work pays off.
Whether it was the polished funk of 24K Magic, the stripped-back soul of Silk Sonic, or the quieter collaborations that followed, there's always been a level of care behind the music that audiences recognize almost immediately. And maybe that's why his career has lasted across so many different eras of pop music. The sound changes, the scale changes, the gaps between releases get longer, but the expectation stays the same.
I mean, I knew my music is just pretty, incredible. So this is not really
Y'all getting this?
I don't know what to say, man. It's been a hell of a year for all of us, and the fact that we do record these songs not too far from here in this little shabby studio, and here we are. With Grammy nominations is a little surreal. So we're just thankful. It's just been a great year, incredible year, and I can't believe that this is happening to me. And we've worked so hard on just trying to make a living doing music, and the fact that we're here, like I said, is an incredible feeling.